Rivers are some of the major environmental features on the planet. North America has many rivers that are important due to their unique features and size, such as the Mississippi River, Colorado River, Sacramento River, Columbia River, and many more. However, all of these rivers have something terrifying in common. They are drying up. Why are these majestic rivers drying up, and what does it mean for the environment? Stay tuned for the rest of this video to find out. The Colorado River is one of North America's most important rivers. It serves 30 tribes in 7 states, including California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. It also generates $1.4 trillion in annual economic activity and supports 16 million people in employment in industries such as agriculture, tourism, recreation, energy, and manufacturing. However, due to a combination of causes such as drought, overuse, and poor management, the river is in significant danger of drying out. One of the main causes of the river's decline is the prolonged drought that has been affecting the region for more than 2 decades. Because of this drought, the snowpack in the Rocky Mountains has decreased, reducing the amount of water available to the river and its tributaries. As a result, the flow of the river has dropped by around 20% since 2000. The drought has also increased the rates of evaporation and transpiration from reservoirs and land surfaces, significantly diminishing the river's supply. Overuse is another problem of the Colorado River. Simply put, more water is being taken out of it than is being restored by nature. Now, water from the river is divided among 7 states and Mexico under a series of agreements dating back to 1922. These agreements, however, were based on faulty calculations of the river's availability and failed to take into consideration environmental needs or future demands. As a result, the river has been over-allocated by around 1.5 million acre-feet per year, which is equivalent to 3 million homes' annual water use. Another problem of the Colorado River is poor management, which is also contributing to the river's decrease. This entails a lack of coordination and collaboration among the numerous parties who rely on the river. The river is managed by a number of federal, state, municipal, and tribal agencies, each with its own set of interests and priorities. There is also a lack of comprehensive and adaptive planning to handle the river's current and future challenges. Furthermore, there are few incentives and systems in place to encourage water conservation and efficiency among users. The Colorado River's drying up has huge economic repercussions for millions of people who rely on it for a living. Water scarcity could affect everything from food output to hydropower generation, recreational activities, and urban development. According to one estimate, removing just 10% of the river's water would result in a loss of $143 billion in economic activity and 1.6 million of employment in a single year. Economic losses would be felt in a variety of industries, including real estate, healthcare, retail, technical services, and finance. And a disaster in the Colorado River would also have major ramifications for both nature and humans. The river's biodiversity includes endangered species such as the Colorado pike minnow, razorback sucker, humpback chub, and southwestern willow flycatcher. The river also performs important ecosystem functions such as flood management, sediment transport, nutrient cycling, and carbon sequestration. The loss of these benefits may have an adverse effect on human health and well-being. The Mississippi River is another important natural resource for the United States, traversing 10 states: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, and of course, Mississippi. 2 of these states have their capital cities located along the river: Baton Rouge in Louisiana and St. Paul in Minnesota. The Mississippi River provides water, transportation, and commerce to millions of people. The river flows for approximately 2,350 miles from its headwaters in Minnesota to its mouth in the Gulf of Mexico. It has an average discharge of around 600,000 cubic feet per second, making it the world's 13th largest river by discharge. Every year it transports over 500 million tons of cargo, which includes 92% of the country's agricultural exports and 78% of grain fed to livestock. However, the Mississippi River is under severe threat from drought, climate change, overuse, and inadequate management. Because of the dry summer, the river's water level has lately decreased to record lows in numerous critical shipping areas. And this drought has been ravaging the region for more than 2 decades, exacerbated by a warmer climate caused mostly by humans burning fossil fuels. The drought has reduced precipitation and snowfall in the river's basin, resulting in less runoff and input into the river. The drought has also boosted evaporation and transpiration rates from reservoirs and the ground surface, substantially diminishing the river's supply. The Mississippi River's drying has enormous economic and environmental consequences. The low water level has an economic impact on river navigation and transportation. To guarantee safety and prevent grounding, the U.S. Coast Guard must reposition buoys and restrict barge traffic. To maintain sufficient depth for shipping, the Army Corps of Engineers must dredge the riverbed. These regulations raise costs and cause delays for shippers and customers. The Mississippi River trade provides for the majority of the country's agricultural and grain exports and generates approximately $400 billion in yearly economic activity. Any disruption or decrease in this commerce could have repercussions on food prices, supply networks, and global markets. And the drying up of the Mississippi River has an impact on the ecosystem processes, biodiversity, and services that the river supports. Hundreds of fish and wildlife species, some of which are endangered or threatened, call the river home. In addition, the river controls water quality, nitrogen cycling, sediment movement, and flood control. These processes are hampered by low water levels, which expose more areas to erosion, pollution, and invasive species. Furthermore, as the river dries, horrific finds like human bones, sunken boats, and historical artifacts, which had been buried for decades or even centuries, are revealed. These discoveries may have cultural, archaeological, or forensic importance, but they also pose contamination or disruption issues. And speaking of rivers in distress in North America, there is also the Rio Grande, a major river in the southwestern United States and northern Mexico. It forms the border between the United States and Mexico. It is 1,896 miles or 3,051 kilometers long, making it the fourth longest river in North America by main stem. The river flows from south-central Colorado in the United States to the Gulf of Mexico. The Rio Grande's water volume and flow rate vary based on location, season, and environment. The river's average discharge in Eagle Pass, Texas, and Piedras Negras, Coahuila is 2,403 cubic feet per second, or 68 cubic meters per second, with the highest recorded flow of 964,000 cubic feet per second, or 27,300 cubic meters per second. However, these figures do not accurately reflect the amount of water that reaches the Gulf of Mexico because most of it is diverted along the way for irrigation, municipal, industrial, and environmental purposes. In addition, the river is frequently vulnerable to droughts which lower its flow and raise its salinity. The Rio Grande's source and mouth are also affected by human and natural forces. The river begins in south-central Colorado in the United States when many streams merge at the base of Canby Mountain in the San Juan Mountains just east of the continental divide of the Americas. Several tributaries join the river as it flows through New Mexico, including the Conejos River, Rio Chama, Jemez River, Rio Puerco, and Rio Conchos. After passing through New Mexico, the Rio Grande becomes the Mexico-United States border, connecting the U.S. state of Texas with the northern Mexican states of Chihuahua and Coahuila, Nuevo Leon, and Tamaulipas. A short segment of the Rio Grande serves as a partial state boundary between New Mexico and Texas. The river eventually drains into the Gulf of Mexico, where dams, levees, canals, and silt have transformed the delta. Climate change, droughts, overuse, diversions, dams, and pollution are all contributing to the Rio Grande's drying up. Climate change has increased the region's temperature and evaporation rates, reducing snowpack and runoff that feed the river. Droughts have become more frequent and severe in recent years, affecting both surface water and groundwater supplies. Overuse has exceeded the river's and aquifers' natural recharge rate, resulting in depletion and degradation. Diversions have reduced the river's natural flow for a variety of reasons, including agriculture, industry, urban growth, recreation, and environmental restoration. Dams have impacted the river's hydrology and ecology by regulating its flow, storing its water, and impeding sediment migration. Pollution has harmed the river's water quality and health by introducing contaminants such as fertilizers, pesticides, heavy metals, microorganisms, and salt. But what are the economic and environmental impacts of the Rio Grande drying up? For both countries, the economic and environmental consequences of the river drying are enormous and unfavorable. In the regions, the river supports agriculture, industry, tourism, recreation, wildlife, and cultural heritage. Its deterioration endangers the livelihoods, health, and security of millions of people who rely on its water and supplies. The river also provides habitat and biodiversity for many plant and animal species, including those that are endangered or endemic, and its degraded state has an impact on the ecosystem services and functions it supplies, such as flood control, erosion prevention, water purification, carbon sequestration, and pollination. The Snake River is a prominent river in the United States Pacific Northwest region. It is the country's 9th longest river and the largest tributary of the Columbia River, which flows into the Pacific Ocean. The Snake River has a profound impact on the region's topography, ecology, economy, and history. The Snake River rises in Wyoming's Yellowstone National Park and flows through 6 states: Wyoming, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Oregon, and Washington. It spans around 1,735 kilometers or 1,078 miles and drains an area of approximately 280,000 square kilometers or 108,000 square miles. The river's average flow is 1,553 cubic meters or 54,830 cubic feet per second. The Snake River's geologic past has shaped its current path and features. It was formed by a volcanic hotspot that is currently located beneath Yellowstone National Park. Massive lava flows from the hotspot built the Snake River Plain, a vast and flat valley that runs through southern Idaho. Along the route, the river cut out deep gorges and waterfalls such as Hell's Canyon and Shoshone Falls. Hell's Canyon is North America's deepest gorge, reaching a maximum depth of 2,436 meters or 7,993 feet. And Shoshone Falls is known as the Niagara of the West because it is 65 meters or 212 feet higher than Niagara Falls. The Snake River is home to a diverse range of plants and animals that rely on its habitats and ecosystems. Hundreds of bird species, fish, animals, reptiles, amphibians, and insects live in the river corridor. Some of these species, such as the Snake River silvery minnow, the Mexican gray wolf, and the ocelot, are endangered or endemic to the region. The river also serves as a source of water for irrigation, drinking, and hydropower generation for both humans and wildlife. Over 20 significant tributaries contribute to the Snake River's water supply and diversity. However, the Snake River faces numerous problems and risks that jeopardize its health and survival. Climate change, population increase, overuse, and diversion have all reduced the river's flow by more than half since the 1950s. Some parts of the river have totally dried up or have become too shallow for transportation or fish migration, and water quality has declined as a result of agricultural runoff, industrial waste, sewage, and salinity. The habitats and ecosystems of the river have been harmed by habitat loss, fragmentation, invasive species, and dams. And the drying up of the Snake River has serious economic and environmental ramifications for the region. Water from the region is necessary for agriculture, which is a major industry in Idaho and other states. And the river's hydroelectric plants provide power to millions of people and businesses. Visitors who like fishing, boating, rafting, camping, and wildlife viewing flock to the river's recreation and tourism attractions. Many Native American tribes and villages who have lived along the river for thousands of years value the river's cultural and historical significance. The Snake River is an important resource for the Pacific Northwest region that must be preserved and repaired. Many efforts and projects are being undertaken to alleviate the river's problems and concerns. Some groups, for example, are calling for the removal or alteration of some dams in order to facilitate fish movement and restore natural flows. Others advocate for water conservation and efficiency techniques in order to reduce water demand and waste. Others are using education, regulation, and partnership to improve water quality and habitat restoration. These activities are intended to ensure that the Snake River continues to provide benefits and services to both humans and nature for future generations. And while news stories about drought often focus on the Colorado River and its reservoir, another important river that's facing major issues is the Sacramento River. The Sacramento River is California's largest and longest river, extending 400 miles or 640 kilometers from the Klamath Mountains to San Francisco Bay. Near Sacramento, the state capital, it has a mass flow rate of approximately 28,139 cubic feet per second or 796.8 cubic meters per second. The river begins near Mount Shasta in Siskiyou County at the confluence of the Middle and South Forks and finishes at Suisun Bay, where it forms a shared delta with the San Joaquin River. California benefits economically from the Sacramento River because it provides water for irrigation, hydroelectric generation, navigation, recreation, and wildlife habitat. The river is home to several fish species, including salmon and sturgeon, and is part of the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project, which provide water to millions of people and farms across the state. The Sacramento River has a rich history, as well as it was the site of the 1849 gold rush and the establishment of several villages and towns along its banks. Its source is snow that melts and collects in upstream reservoirs and is released in response to water needs or flood control. However, seasonal occurrences such as agricultural runoff or runoff from old mining operations may have an impact on water quality by adding contaminants such as copper, mercury, toxicity, and more than 15 pesticides. Variable climatic conditions and rainfall amounts, together with competing demands for water uses, all have an impact on the aquatic ecosystem of this basin. The Sacramento River's water quality is critical for drinking water supply, irrigation, recreation, navigation, and wildlife habitat. As a result, monitoring and regulating the Sacramento River's water quality is critical for preserving its numerous beneficial uses. However, because of the continuous drought that has afflicted California and the West for more than a decade, the Sacramento River is drying up. According to Google search results, the drought has diminished the river's snowfall as well as inputs from its tributaries. The drought has also raised water demand from agriculture, urban regions, and environmental needs, resulting in river over-allocation and over-pumping. The drought has also had an impact on the river's water quality and aquatic ecosystem, as lower water flows mean higher concentrations of contaminants and less habitat for fish and wildlife. The Sacramento River is experiencing a severe water crisis, endangering its numerous beneficial uses as well as its position as a lifeline for millions of Californians. And North America has more rivers in serious trouble, and another one is the Canadian River, a major tributary of the Arkansas River. It runs approximately 1,026 miles or 1,651 kilometers from Colorado to New Mexico, the Texas Panhandle, and Oklahoma. Near its mouth, it has a mass flow rate of around 3,175 cubic feet per second, or 89.9 cubic meters per second. The river flows from New Mexico's Sangre de Cristo Mountains all the way to the Arkansas River near Eufaula, Oklahoma. The Canadian River is economically significant for the regions through which it runs because it supplies water for agriculture, hydroelectric generation, recreation, and wildlife habitat. The river is home to numerous fish species, including catfish, bass, and walleye, and is part of the Canadian River Project and the Washita Basin Project, both of which manage water resources and flood control. The Canadian River has a rich history as well, having been the location of multiple wars and treaties between Native Americans and European settlers, as well as the path of explorers such as Coronado and Mackenzie. Drought, climate change, water diversion, and exotic plants are all contributing to the Canadian River's demise. The Canadian River is located in one of the most drought-prone areas of the United States and has recently suffered historically low rainfall and high temperatures. These climatic circumstances have decreased the river's snowfall and discharge, as well as increasing evaporation and transpiration losses. The drought has also raised water demand for agriculture, urban regions, and environmental needs, resulting in river over-allocation and over-pumping. And the invasion of salt cedar, a non-native plant that uses significant amounts of water and displaces native vegetation along the riverbanks, is another issue harming the river. The salinity and sedimentation of the river have also grown as a result of the salt cedar harming its water quality and aquatic ecology. The Canadian River is experiencing a severe water problem, endangering its numerous beneficial uses as well as its position as a major tributary of the Arkansas River. North American rivers are among the mainstays of the economy, so it is a huge deal when their existence is threatened. And this is why the authorities are concerned about the health of the Columbia River. The Columbia River is the largest river in North America that flows into the Pacific Ocean and is the fourth largest by volume in the United States. It's approximately 1,243 miles or 2,000 kilometers long and has a drainage basin of approximately 258,000 square miles or 668,000 square kilometers. The Columbia River rises in British Columbia, Canada, and flows through 7 American states: Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and Nevada, before emptying into the Pacific Ocean near Astoria, Oregon. It runs for around 300 miles along the border between Washington and Oregon. The Columbia River is important because of its significant hydropower potential, making it one of the world's major renewable energy sources. More than 60 dams on the river and its tributaries generate over 44% of all hydroelectric production in the United States. The Grand Coulee Dam, Bonneville Dam, Chief Joseph Dam, and the Dalles Dam are among the largest dams. The Columbia River is economically significant because it provides water for agriculture, navigation, recreation, and industry. The river also helps the regional economy by supporting tourism, fishing, commerce, and power generation. According to one estimate, the Columbia River Basin's annual economic worth is $198 billion. According to another study, every dollar invested in river ecosystem restoration provides $10 in economic benefits. However, one of the major attractions of the Columbia River has become its Achilles heel and is threatening its health: dams. There are 14 hydroelectric dams along the Columbia River alone. Dams have a significant impact on the quantity and quality of water in rivers. Dams hold water in reservoirs which evaporate faster than natural rivers, especially in hot, dry weather. Dams also drain water for irrigation and other purposes, leaving less water for downstream rivers. Dams also change the water's natural temperature, oxygen, and nutrient levels, impacting aquatic life and habitats. Dams also have the effect of disrupting the river's natural flow and migration patterns. Dams erect obstacles that restrict fish and other creatures from freely flowing down the river. This has an impact on reproduction, survival, and genetic diversity. Dams also alter the timing and volume of floods and droughts, altering riparian vegetation and wildlife. While it might not be as popular as the Mississippi or Colorado rivers, the Pecos River is another significant river in North America. The Pecos River, which flows for 926 miles from north-central New Mexico to the Rio Grande in Texas, is one of the longest rivers in the United States. The Pecos River has a long history and culture, having been inhabited by Native Americans, explored by Spanish conquistadors, and featured in Wild West legend. It is also known as the West River. Millions of people and species in the region rely on the Pecos River for water, energy, and pleasure. It provides habitat for a variety of habitats, including forests, grasslands, marshes, and deserts. Many species of fish, birds, animals, and plants live there, some of which are endangered or threatened. The Pecos River is crucial to the region's economy by providing water for irrigation, hydropower generation, and municipal consumption. It also helps the tourism and recreation industries, which produce money and employment. According to a 2018 Texas A&M University study, the Pecos River watershed in Texas had a $1.2 billion yearly economic effect and supported 9,600 employees. The Pecos River is unique in that it's one of the Southwest's few surviving free-flowing rivers that's not been dammed or diverted along its entire course. It also has a distinct hydrology that enables it to recharge groundwater aquifers and maintain surface flows during dry years. It is a live example of the region's natural beauty and diversity. However, the Pecos River is experiencing a number of risks that could cause its waters to dry up and decrease in quality. Overpumping, salinization, and exotic species are among the dangers. Each of these elements has a negative impact on the hydrology, ecology, and economy of the river. Overpumping is the excessive taking of water from the river and its aquifers for a variety of purposes, including irrigation, municipal supplies, and industrial. Overpumping limits the quantity of water available for the natural flow and recharging of the river. It also causes ground subsidence and lowers the water table, both of which can harm infrastructure and habitats. Excessive pumping can also raise the concentration of pollutants and toxins in the remaining water. Salinization is the increase in salt content in river water caused by both natural and anthropogenic factors. Evaporation, rock weathering, and saltwater intrusion from the Rio Grande are all natural factors. Irrigation return flows, wastewater discharges, oil and gas extraction, and mining activities are all examples of human causes. Salinization has an impact on the quality of drinking water, agriculture, and wildlife. It can also erode pipes and equipment, resulting in lower crop yields. And non-native plants and animals that have been introduced into the river's ecology and have a negative influence on native species are referred to as invasive species. Invasive species can compete for food, space, and resources with native species. They can also change the structure and function of the habitat, bring illnesses and parasites, and hybridize with local species. Salt cedar, Russian olive, zebra mussel, Asian clam, common carp, channel catfish, and largemouth bass are some examples of invasive species in the Pecos River. These issues represent significant problems for the Pecos River's conservation and management. They necessitate coordinated measures from a variety of stakeholders, including federal, state, tribal, and municipal governments, environmental groups, water users, landowners, and researchers.